I'm Ron Schutz. I blog, I write books. I've been in the financial services industry for over 5 decades, which equates to today about 110,000 hours that I've been at this. I hope you find each of these videos informative and thought-provoking. My goal was to make them educational. I hope I achieved that objective. Thank you for watching. So here's an example. It's called the OZ, to encourage job creation. It was actually passed and signed into law in late 2018, and its first year of effectiveness was 2019. And what it says is that if you invest in certain areas, so we have an area in Houston called east of downtown, or EDO, that has been economically challenged for years, and that's now considered mostly an opportunity zone. They're all around the country. But here it was in 2019. If you invest capital gains into a qualified opportunity fund, you can defer the taxes. So the tax base increases from $0 to 10% on invested dollars, reducing your future tax liability. By 2024, that's year 5. By year 7, the tax base increases by an additional 5%. So that your total is 15% of the increase, but it will decrease future tax liability. And then if you've held it for 8 years before you liquidate it, you will pay taxes on the original capital less the 15% reduction that they have. And if you hold it beyond 2029 to 2047, you'll pay no income tax on the appreciation in the qualified opportunity zone once it's sold. So this is saying, because you put capital at risk, because you left it there for 10 or more years, then you pay no capital gains tax. Now, a variation of this could be that the capital gains tax of 10% drops 1% a year, so that you try to encourage people to hold an asset for 20 years to mitigate the impact of capital gains tax. But this exists today for people that have capital gains, and it's a good example of the government trying to cooperate and encourage the formation of capital, particularly in economically challenged areas. And I, for one, think this was a great move on the part of our Congress, particularly in this part of the tax law. There is a theory out there called modern monetary theory. Sometimes you see it referred to as MMT. And essentially what it says is the government can borrow ad infinitum and not worry about the size of the debt, because they ultimately have the taxpayers that they can call to reckoning on that. Well, that's a nice idea, but it hasn't worked if you look back in history, and I'm going to talk about some examples of it. What we have right now in the U.S. is a printing press. So the Fed, which is one of the arms of the banking system, says, let's print more money, so stacks of $100 bills, and let's infuse it into the economy. So that takes this money and puts it into the economy. And for the first time, the Fed is buying commercial investments. So it's really kind of scary when you think that they're just running a printing press to add more money into the economy. And that's how we've run up the deficit. Well, if we look back in history, go back into the early couple of centuries, Rome at one point was a global power. It failed, and it failed because it kept spending money it didn't have. More recently, Greece is a good example. And what they just did is they simply said, if you have above a certain amount of money, we're going to take that money from you in your accounts. Boom. That was not a very happy thing for Greece and for the people that had been prudent savers. But we could see that. What I like is the fact that individuals can respond more quickly to change. And that's largely because self-preservation comes into play. So self-preservation comes into play because they have their own money in a venture. If you've ever tried to borrow money from the bank, really what the bank is trying to do is say to you, how much money do you have in the game? The easiest way would be your house. Is that a debt or a loan? You've taken an asset and you've said, I'm willing to pledge this asset as collateral, which really says the bank can step in and claim it if you don't perform. And I'm not going to get into different tax laws of homesteading and things like that and at this point. That's beyond the scope of these. But basically, they want you to put down some amount of money because they want you to have skin in the game, and they don't care about if they come in to have to reclaim that money. Same thing with a car. A car is an asset that backs the loan. So they'll finance a portion of the car with the idea they can always sell the car. That's the same thing with a lease. Ultimately it's figured out that there's a certain future price of the car, and that's what they're going to sell it for or liquidate the car for. Debt, like credit card, is against your future income. What our country has done is create a big credit card debt without saying when and how they're going to start paying it back. And that, folks, really scares me, wakes me up at night, makes me feel like I haven't been a good steward for my children and my grandchildren, because frankly, I'm at the point in life that it won't impact me one way or the other, but it will impact probably most of you who are watching and listening to these tapes. Thank you very much.